In this tutorial we're going to have a look at font selection and also importing fonts into Photoshop to increase our options. So in a new document, the first thing that we would need to do is go down to the Type tool. Now every time you click onto your document area with Type tool, it will create a new layer, which you can see down here. So I've got layer 1 and layer 2, and this T means it's a text layer. I can then type straight in. So some common issues are, I can't see what I'm typing. If I go along this top area, you can see here the colour selection is white, so white on white clearly isn't going to show. So I'm going to select my text, choose a red, and all of a sudden we can see text. If it's in the wrong position, make sure we're using the correct justification within the text box which has been created by default for us. If it's still in the wrong position, I would need to go back to my arrow tool, where I can now grab that text as long as I have auto select selected all the text I selected here to move around. If I want to edit that text, I go back to Type tool, click into that text and add by typing. To change text size, as with colour, I need to highlight the text that I want to change, a bit like text boxes in Word. I can use this drop down menu to select preset sizes, or if I left click and hold on this T symbol, I can drag that left to go smaller or right to go larger, and it previews the size of the text, which is quite a useful way to work. There are a range of options on here, so we could obviously select fonts from in here. We can choose a range of whether it's regular, italics and semi-bold. The list in this menu will change dependent on the font that you are working with. We can even look at the sharpness of something, the text direction, which that's with a click it changes direction, whether we want there to be a curve to the text, so an example of an arc. However, if you want to see more options, we can go to this menu which is docked on the right here called character, this A. Now it's not always visible, sometimes we need to bring it up. So if it's not visible, go to Window and make sure that there is a tick next to character, and that will bring up both character and paragraph here, which we can dock and undock then. Now in here we've got a range of other things, for example horizontal spacing, or we can change the actual kind of how fat the text is rather than the spacing, and so on and so forth. It's worth experimenting with. Right, the last thing we're going to look at is how to bring new fonts in. So let's imagine that you've decided you know the mood of the font, you've got a rough idea of the kinds of fonts you'd like to use, but none of them are preloaded in the Photoshop list. Well, that's not too much of a problem. If we go onto the internet, there are several font sites where we can download and install fonts for free, so we'll go through that process. I like to use dafont.com, although it is not the only one. It is pretty decent. On the main page of dafont.com, fonts are put into different categories. So let's say I wanted a graffiti one, I'd go over to script and click on graffiti. Now in each of these, sometimes there are over 100 fonts in each category, so I've already had a search through and I want to use this Amsterdam graffiti. If you want to preview what you want to work with, you can put your text in here. So I'm doing a sports day piece of, so I go down to the Amsterdam one. That's the kind of work that I want. This site's nice and easy to use. We click on download, make sure we click on save file. I'm going to right click and open the containing folder. It's a zip file, so I'm going to go to open with Windows Explorer, you should just be able to use a double left click. We can see here that this font called Amsterdam is here. Sometimes you'll have several different versions of the font for things like bold and italics. You might need to click on each one to install them. If I double click on here, it gives me some examples of the font, plus, rather handily, an install button. Now, when I go back to Photoshop, simple as that, I should be able to go to Amsterdam Graffiti, and here I have my test switched over straight away. So that's how easy it is to install fonts from tofont.com. So we've had a look at using the type tool, how to move from one font to another, how to select the text to change colour and font size. We've also had a quick look at the fonts menu, looking at how to bend text and so on. We've also looked at how to bring up the character and paragraph menu to the right of the screen through the window menu. And finally we had a look at how to install fonts from the internet on tofont.com. So hopefully that'll give you a few ideas of how to go about manipulating the fonts in your piece.